that not many people do really understand what is actually Islam in Indonesia. Could you reflect on that?
Indonesian Islam is more spiritual, more sophisticated, if you like. A kind of understanding of Islam as a religion of peace, religion of love, eros-oriented religion rather than law. It also taught me about religion, about spirituality. I started to read books on Sufism, schools of thought in Islam that emphasize on the concept of love. And this kind of Islam, I think, is really needed in this very divided world. Something that can unify people based on love, coexistence, peaceful coexistence in world civilization through its teaching on love, on peace, on brotherhood.
So our guest here today for our podcast is Pak Haidar Bagir, who is a prominent Indonesian intellectual, entrepreneur, and advocate for interfaith understanding. So you've been the president director of BZ Group, which is one of Indonesia's leading publishing houses for
43 years.
43 years, mashallah. You've been a champion for pluralism, critical thought for decades as well. You're also the chairman of the Leswadi Hayati Foundation for Education, which now has 13 schools?
I think more than that.
Is it 13 or 18?
Yeah, 18 maybe,
18?
17 or 18 maybe.
Okay.
Any schools, okay.
All right, of many schools throughout Indonesia, as well as the founder of the philanthropic Yasmin Foundation. You have degrees from Institut Teknologi Bandung, Harvard University, and the University of Indonesia, as well as further research at Indiana University. You're also a prolific author. You've written over 50 books, often exploring Islamic philosophy, Sufism, and also discussing Gerakan Islam Cinta, which is your response to radicalism and intolerance, spreading the message of Islam as a religion of love and happiness.
We know that Islam in Indonesia is well known with Islam as the most populous Muslim majority country, and people also relate Islam in Indonesia with democracy, so many things as a part of the rhetoric in the global stage. But we both know, Pak Haidar, that not many people do really understand what is actually Islam in Indonesia. And knowing that with your background, from publishing industry, from then move to the schools, and then spirituality and philanthropic movements here in Indonesia, I believe that you have considerably probably the experience to explain what is actually Islam in Indonesia. Could you reflect on that?
It's been long since I believe that there are various backgrounds in terms of culture when we talk about Islam. I believe that we indeed can talk about Islam Nusantara or Islam Indonesia, and even the Holy Quran actually says that we created you in tribes and people so that you can understand each other. Yeah, it means that different cultural background is something which is not only allowed within the matrix of Islamic understanding, but it is something that God actually designed. So we can talk about Indonesian Islam, Arab Islam, Persian Islam, Indian Islam. Yeah, for sure there is the core of religion in which everyone would hold to this principle, the core principle of religion. But at the same time, people from different cultures can also imbue the respective cultural aspects of one's cultural background. Indonesia, for instance, as a country in which before the advent of Islam in this country was influenced by the Indian religions, Hinduism and Buddhism. Even before that, we were told that in Indonesia, there had been not less than 160 something local religions. And again, a kind of religion which is closer to Eastern religion. And when Islam came to Indonesia, with the coming of the Sufis, that's why Islam was accepted very well and very quickly. Islam developed very rapidly in Indonesia because of the predisposition of Indonesian people that has been shaped by local religions as well as Eastern religion, Indian religions, Hinduism and Buddhism. And there are indeed many common platforms between Sufistic Islam and Eastern religions as well as local religions or the indigenous religions of the Nusantara people at that time. So one that we can say for sure about Indonesian Islam is that Indonesian Islam is more spiritual, more sophistic, if you like. A kind of understanding of Islam as a religion of peace, religion of love. According to some of the phenomenologists, we should say that this is kind of eros-oriented religion rather than law-oriented religion. And this kind of Islam, I think, is really needed in this very divided world. Yeah, we are facing more conflicts, more wars, and we need something that can unify people based on love, coexistence, peaceful coexistence. And I'm sure that Islam in Indonesia can contribute in shaping the civilization, world civilization, through its teaching on love, on peace, on brotherhood. So hopefully Indonesia can find venues to spread this kind of Islam to the world. And by that, we can hope that Indonesian Islam can contribute in a much greater scale to the world civilization.
Yeah, so as we know that you've started this since the last more than 40 years, right? So when you were at the uni, what was actually the beginning of the idea of starting this journey? Is it the one that you have envisaged long before, way before?
No, actually, when I started my university years, I was still a very young man who doesn't really know I really would like to achieve in this life. But then I started my university degrees, not only by studying in one of the best university in Indonesia.
What was the major then?
Industrial engineering.
Okay, that's
quite far. Yes, quite far. That's why I left industrial engineering and then started my master's degree in EIN, State Institute of Islamic Studies. Then went to Harvard University by studying philosophy and mysticism. And starting from Harvard University, until now, I'm pursuing my study in Islamic philosophy and mysticism as well. But first of all, when I started my study in Bandung Institute of Technology, kind of opening my mind of the challenge of modern civilization. I remember my first article that was published in Kompas Daily was about Clash of Civilization, something like that.
It was in 70s?
No, 80s, I think. In 80s. I started writing articles when I was a student, but my articles were published in local newspaper, but big one in Bandung, which is Pikiran Rakyat. At that time, I'm seeing something which can create big problem within the world civilization with Cold War and also the what you call the inability for humans solve conflicts peacefully. Yeah. But then I was active also in Salman Mosque in Bandung Institute of Technology. It also taught me about religion, about spirituality. I started to read book on Sufism, and I found my passion in reading books on Sufism at that time. That's why when I started Mizan publication, book on Sufism were among the main list of the books that we published at that time. And it was 1990s. In those years, there are many Indonesian celebrities, especially artists, who were attracted to Sufism at that time.
Okay.
So
it was in 80s as well.
Yeah, 80s, yeah.
Okay.
And actually, there are more people attracted to spirituality, and since they are Muslims, they were Muslims, they went into Sufism. And the more I read books on Sufism, the more I'm attracted to Sufism. That's why when I left Indonesia to study at Harvard, I took philosophy, and gradually my interest is becoming more into Sufism. So I think I can say safely that my involvement now in education, the networks of our schools, the tagline is Global Compassionate Schools, for instance. Compassion is the core of the curriculum. And then I started the Gerakan Islam Cinta. I'm also the member of Indonesian chapter of Compassion Action International. And then I also started this philanthropic work. I think it moved around this concept of love in Islam, which must be rooted somewhere in my being. I'm sure that the role of my mother, who is a very loving person, must have much contributions to the fact that I'm now active in this field. For sure, my understanding of Sufism as a schools of thought in Islam that emphasize on the concept of love also have contributed much to what I'm doing now. And myself, I'm very grateful. I have a very good life, Alhamdulillah. I have a good family, I have a good wife, I have good friends and everything. It also contributes much to the fact that being loved, being around family, being around friends and everything, it also enhances our capacity to love. This, I think, what might have contributed to what I'm now.
It might be off the topic from the previous question, but I think it's relevant because from your answer, I understood that there is a tendency in Indonesia, but I think it's also overseas in many countries, that the brightest mind of students went to non-religious based schools or universities like yourself. You went to ITB. We know that in Indonesia, ITB is well known to attract the brightest mind of Indonesians, young Indonesians. But we know that to be an Islamic scholars, you need to be really smart. Otherwise, you couldn't grasp the main idea that God sent through Prophet Muhammad in the Quran and also in Sunnah. So what do you take on that?
Actually, my choice of going to ITB is rather pragmatic. As I mentioned before, I had been a very simple, you might say, ignorant young man from a small city in Central Java. And ITB is like something very, very high, very attractive. And also it promised a bright career in life. So that was my background in choosing ITB at that time, apart from the fact that my elder brother also had been in ITB before me. So it was more like an accident. But then when I was in ITB, since I had been from religious family, I was educated in a very religious family. My father is kind of ustad. I read books when I was a high school student on religions as well. The fact that I was in ITB doesn't diminish my interest in religion, in studying religion. That's why maybe it takes only like 2 months before I was attracted to Masjid Salman. And I was a member, a very active member of the Islamic libraries with a big size of collections of Islamic books, good Islamic books. It only attracted me more to studying religion at that time. And I might be also a sentimental person, sentimental young man, that easily drove me to having empathy toward people who are challenged, people who suffer from great problems. I think it also contributes to the fact that even when I was a student in ITB, my interest is more towards studying religion, especially Sufism, which I mentioned before as a school of thought of love in Islam. So I don't know, maybe I chose ITB just because of my ignorance about my passion. Actually, I went to Unpad also. 2 years after I started ITB, I applied in Universitas Pajajaran. I was accepted. I
What major
went economy.
Oh, economy.
Yeah. So I thought ITB is too technical, but my interest in general economy or macroeconomy. So I studied in both universities, ITB and Unpad, but it turned out to be very difficult. And then I left Universitas Pajajaran, but as soon as I graduated from ITB, I realized that ITB actually is not my passion. After working for maybe 6 years, starting and then developing Mizan, I had this idea in mind. In one Ramadan day, after sahur, why I don't go to UIN to study Islam. So I called Pak Quresh Shihab. Pak Quresh was the director at that time, maybe. 1888, I think.
Okay.
So I called Pak Quresh, is it possible for someone who is graduated from ITB to go to... And Pak Quresh said, yes, it's possible. As soon as you can pass the examination, then you will be accepted. So at that time, I was accepted. I was the first.
What was the test back then?
Arabic text, translating Arabic text.
So it was actually quite difficult for those.
Quite difficult. I'm sure I didn't get a good score at that time, but just maybe
Enough to pass.
Yeah, enough to pass. I became more and more interested in studying philosophy and mysticism, and I applied to Fulbright scholarship. At that time, I think until now, Bapenas also offered scholarship. I applied. I was accepted in both, but Fulbright was more like prestigious. So I took Fulbright. I was accepted in several universities in the United States, but I insisted that I will go to Harvard. Fulbright said, no, our money would not enough for you, would not suffice for you to go to Harvard. I said, no, I won't go except Harvard.
But back then you already run Mizan? Or...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in 1990. Mizan was started in 1982. We started publishing books. The first books that we published was on 1993.
Okay.
1983, sorry, yeah. So I left Mizan. Not left Mizan, actually. I left Indonesia to study. I had someone who can take care of Mizan at that time. So that took me more into studying Sufism. But my interest in science actually also grows, especially with the invention of the quantum mechanics.
Okay.
Science and Sufism becomes
Seems
more
to collide.
convergent, yeah. So now I'm writing and studying much on quantum physics that I actually studied in ITB, but at the time I studied just to pass the exam because I didn't know what is the use of studying quantum physics. Now I regret that I didn't study well, but now I try to study quantum physics. Not as much as when I was an ITB student. I'm old now. I don't have time and energy to study, but at least I would study quantum physics as much as it relates to Sufism.
Can you explore more about the relation between quantum physics and Sufism?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard a little from Haidar.
Yeah, this is heavy actually, but
Make it simple.
It's a much longer conversation.
There is only one kind of natural law, which is natural law that operates in the physical level.
Quantum mechanics.
No, before it's...
Before quantum mechanics.
Isaac Newton.
Yeah,
gravity.
like Newtonian physics, things that causality only work on object, if you like. When people or the scientists invented a word that is usually called quantum realm, subatomic level of being, scientists find that the Newtonian physics cannot be applied. Newtonian physics stop at a big object.
Like
but
Batman.
Yes. When it comes to things which is in the quantum level, it cannot hold. So even a big scientist like Albert Einstein, when the principle of quantum entanglement was invented. Quantum entanglement is a phenomenon in which two objects, which is far separated with vast distance, can influence each other in almost no time. This is called quantum entanglement. When we talk about big objects, it's impossible because the bigger the mass of the object, the farther they were separated. The time for one object to influence the other object is much longer. But this is two objects with vast distance can influence each other almost in no time. This cannot be explained with Newtonian physics. Even Albert Einstein would say that this is a spooky action at a distance. So something that makes us fearful because of the mysterious way of the law.
That's the thing that in Islam we know as ghaib,
Ghaib. In Islam also we have two kind of ghaib, unseen. One is relative unseen phenomenon. This is relative because a certain time we haven't reached that kind of knowledge. So it's ghaib or unseen for us because of the limitations of our measurement tools, for instance. Our capacity to measure.
That's why mysticism getting closer seems to get closer to what we know.
Quantum level is still a level in the material level. Even in the material level, our science cannot reach, or we need to find a new paradigm, a new scientific revolution, if you use the term used by Thomas Kuhn, for instance. We need a paradigm shift. This is still in the material level, but this is an indication that there is a possibility that there are levels, much higher levels of being other than material level. And it's only a problem of, again, we don't have the tool. We don't have the capability to measure the phenomenon. So actually, quantum physics gave an indications that higher realms, that is the main feature of the spiritual realm studied under mysticism or Sufism, might be there. We just couldn't go as far.
So what I learned from Indonesia in the post-colonial era, we seems to move away from the tradition that we had in the past. That, like, for example, Islamic boarding school, they teach about mysticism and etc. And then in the post-colonial era, the government tried to develop a certain educational system that divorce mysticism out of education. I think ITB is one of the institutions that seems to distance itself from the traditions. What do you? Do you think now we get back to the?
I think first of all that this is a global trend everywhere. It has been 5 centuries, according to the historians of science, that we have disenchanted the universe. Except those 5 centuries, actually, we see the universe as something enchanted. Even science was contributed by people who are now, they are called the Hermetists. Hermetists in Indonesian language is like dukun, like
sorcerers.
Or soothsayer or something like that. But in Greek time, for instance, we know Pythagoras is a Hermetist, and many philosophers. Until 15th century, we know someone by the name of Giordano Bruno or many other Hermetists who were actually inventor of modern science, or actually a predecessor of modern science. But since about 5 centuries ago,
the modern science is the Newtonian, or
the Newtonian, the more positivistic, if you like. What is real is what can be perceived by the eyes, heard by the and so empirical science only. But before 5 centuries, science also talked about something which is transcendent to the empirical world. Now, quantum physics actually can be a vehicle to bring back
the tradition.
the traditions. But this time, it is something that can be justified scientifically.
So it can be accepted widely.
Even in the scientific environment. Circle.
So I understood that many people, when they produce something in particular society, actually they are trying to answer the problems of the community. You emphasize the importance of love and compassion. Is it the problem in Indonesia or?
Yeah, I think it's a problem everywhere. In Indonesia, I think the tendency to create conflicts between people from different backgrounds, whether this is a cultural background or political background or religious background, is very concerning. Identity politics, post-truth, and those kind of things, I think it really real here in Indonesia, not less real than what has happened overseas or in countries like United States. You know, Trump, I think, is someone who is given birth by this kind of post-truth phenomenon, for instance. In Indonesia, I think we see the same thing now. Emphasizing law actually exclude people. Law is something that deals with true or false. So
it's binary.
Binary. Either you are among the black or white. So it excludes. But love embrace. Love embrace. That's why I think that love is like the antidote for the most
Mechanician worldview, like the binary.
Binary worldview. But at the time, this is like the disease of our humanity now. The fact that we are prone to finding solution by force, by violence, by strength, instead by dialogue, by peaceful discussions, by sharing different views. That's why I'm very sure that following this path of Sufism, of philosophy in its original meaning, which is the love of wisdom, by spreading universal spirituality, by believing that apart from on the surface, religions are different, but in its core, it has a transcendent unity, that it comes from God. Not only the so-called major religion, but even local religion. For sure, believing person is free to believe that his or her religion is like the true religion, but don't close the doors for dialogue. Because if you close the doors for dialogue, everyone would think that his or her own religion is the only true religion, and it becomes source of conflict.
I think that's the thing what makes Indonesia unique compared to different countries. So you've traveled abroad to many countries. You can interact and discuss this issue probably with many scholars overseas or even layperson. But what do you take from that? I mean, sometimes we'll misunderstood Islam Indonesia. So what do you want to say in that case?
Unfortunately, we are very sorry that the influence of this modernism, profanization, secularism has also been a bad influence to Islam in Indonesia. As we discussed before, originally Indonesian Islam is a sophistic Islam, an Islam which is inclusive, which is based on love. But unfortunately, with the influence, I have to mention that it doesn't come only from, if you like, for Western world has contributed much to the civilization in a positive manner, but also it brings secularism, profanization, materialism, and those kind of things. But I have to mention that this influence, which is not positive, also comes from the Muslim world itself. For instance, in the past half a century, there has been a kind of Puritanistic Islam. And this kind of Puritanistic Islam is like
one of the examples, like
Puritanistic Islam is an Islam which would like to disenchant Islam also. Islam becomes more like law-oriented religion, devoid of its love aspect. So apart from the bad influence of materialism, secularism, also this tendency to purify Islam excessively also act as a force to disenchant Islam. And disenchanting Islam means stripping it of its love aspect. And I think humanity in this time really needs spirituality which is based on love, religion which is based on love. Because religion which has been stripped of its love element would only worsen the situation by excluding people who are different from us. And it means that it endorses conflicts, endorses violence, endorses wars, and we really need to work hard to overcome this challenge.
Earlier, you said that Sufistic Islam was more easily accepted into Indonesia because of like the culture and the local religions, and how it was essentially the same message, right? So do you think that, like you said just now, the purification, the Puritanism of Islam, do you think that also plays a role in like the rising shift away from how those local religions before and like the culture influenced having that message of love?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Indonesians, until before the coming of this Puritanistic movement, were actually a very compassionate people. They are not usually divided by differences of religion, differences of culture. I remember when I was small, it's very easy for someone at that time, for instance, telephone equipment was very rare. Only very few houses has. Anytime we have problems in the middle of our doing something, and it was very urgent for us to contact someone, we can just knock any house and ask whether the house has a telephone. And then we said, can we borrow your telephone? People will easily ask you to come and use your telephone. People would kind of container of water to be given to people who were thirsty on their way, since at that time they were walking, no cars, no motorcycle, or very few of them. And people would just drink from the same cup without the fear of COVID or something like that. Even the environment was very friendly at that time. So Indonesians were like that. They will even open their house for a traveler whom they didn't know at all, just because they would like to help. This kind of culture, I think, is being attacked by the more egoistic and individualistic culture. And religion also, instead of contributing to maintaining this culture of love, this culture of mutual assistance and this kind of good culture, actually religion has become also, has joined the forces to erode this kind of culture and makes religion more as something that would divide people.
Instead of to unite.
To unite or embrace each other. That's why the revitalizing Sufism or mystical Islam is very important. Not only within Islam, but within all religion. And it doesn't mean that by...
law is not important, but it's
law has to be put under love. But we need love. Because love without law will be chaos.
I think that's the spirit of Ghazali when he tried to embrace both aspects of Islamic teachings, that is law and Sufism.
Yes.
Although he was attacked.
Because some people would misunderstood him as someone who is against philosophy, which is not the situation. Actually, Al-Ghazali was a philosopher, but he's very critical towards some of the elements of philosophy which he thought or he saw as not in line with the teaching of religion. But Ghazali is a genius. And no tasawwuf, even the most liberal Sufi would say that there is no tasawwuf without Sharia. So there is no way to approach Sufism without Sharia.
And the other way around.
The other way around. But actually Sharia has to be seen as the way toward the ultimate element of religion, which is love. For instance, by promoting love, it doesn't mean that you will tolerate oppression, for instance. If you tolerate oppression, it means that you neglect the people who are oppressed. And this is against love. And there is a time in which love necessitates you to go against people who oppress other people, for instance. But always, it cannot be done except on love. It cannot be done on hate. Yeah. The way of love is the way of avoiding hate in any situation. Do everything, except if you have to go to war with the motive of love.
I think that's the spirit of Quran as well, right? The beginning of all chapters except one surah, I think always begin with Bismillah.
Bismillah,
But sometimes people just skip to the next ayah. I mean, that's the thing. And what do you think of that?
In Irfan, which is the other name or philosophical Sufism, Allah is called as unified names. Usually people say that Allah has 99 names. And if it is mixed into one, it becomes Allah. And in Bismillahir Rahman, Allah is identified with two words. The root of those is Rahmah, Rahimah. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Not only one Rahmah, but two Rahmah. Ar-Rahman means compassion of God towards all of His creations. Notwithstanding he is a believer or not, Muslim or non-Muslims, good or bad, God always have compassion to all His creations. But Rahim is a specific compassion. If you take the path towards God, then automatically, not because God doesn't want to give you, automatically when you go through God's way, you will get more compassion from God. But if you choose not to go God's way, then you lost the opportunity to have an extra compassion. But even if you are not a believer, God still have compassion.
So after 40 years, you've done so many things. But have you seen changes in Indonesian society, or is there any reverse? I mean, we already starting going back to our tradition, or are we moving away from our tradition, or what is actually going on?
To be frank, I doubt it, but I believe that small things can create change. It needs time. I am very convinced that if you do good things, it will create something good also. Somewhere, even science also says that there is not even small change in a place like in Cinere now that would not create changes, maybe somewhere very far from here. We are demanded to do something good as much as we can, or as small as we can. But more of us would do our best to contribute with something good to the community. We are sure that it can become big, and at some point it will create a significant change in the positive direction within us. So God doesn't demand from us, doesn't ask from us something that over our ability. We just demanded to do the best that we can. Even in one of the Quranic verse, God says, be conscious of God as much as you can, just at the limit that you can. God doesn't demand more. Anything we can do, any positive thing, any good thing that we can do, as much as you think it is very small, very insignificant, just do, and it will take its momentum and will contribute to the change that we are all hoping to happen in our life.
I think Alia is one of the beneficiaries of your work.
Which I'm very grateful for.
in your schools, could you reflect on it as well? I mean, for people who really close to Pak Haidar with his schools, and then you were trained there, and then what is the difference? Because you've traveled to Sudan, Malaysia, probably you have some kind of particular understanding of what the things that Pak Haidar did.
I mean, okay, this is a very difficult question for me to answer, because I studied in Laswerdi from 2nd grade to 12th grade, so that was 10 years of schooling, right? But the schooling I had before that was in like my younger years. So I can't say I have very strong memories of that time. But obviously, those 10 years were very impactful. I saw the school go from global Islamic school to global compassionate school, and I saw the shift in curriculum. Obviously, the core values and the paradigms have remained the same. It's always been for a message of love and, teaching everyone how compassion comes first and everyone is deserving of kindness and respect. And so those have always been the core values in the schools, and that's what we've always been taught. So that is, I think, what I can say, that throughout my time in Lazuardi, we were always taught that those core values are important. Like, to be a good human being, to be good to other people is as important as academics. And so we were taught that at the same time.
So I think that's the thing that probably when we are in the system, we couldn't identify what is the difference. So how do you notice the difference?
After I graduate, I was here so we have the school in Cinere is kindergarten to 9th grade. And then the high school is in a different location. So I'm not saying it was completely different, but it was enough to like make me reflect on my time in Cinere. And so that was like one moment where I could see, okay, so this is how it was in lower grades and this is how it is in high school. And then graduating from there, going to university, completely different setting. So that really gave me the chance to reflect on it more, that how being in that environment with, similar people is very different from going to university where it's people of completely different backgrounds. Yeah.
So that's the time when you realize that the things that you learned at Lazuardi was actually really
for sure.
impactful to your education. Okay. So I just want to reflect with your work, because there's a connection here, right? So do you have any things to say more than the things that we already asked before? That probably it's very important, but we
weren't able to.
We weren't able to pose the question.
There is actually a good use that we can find in Sufism also, with regards to the fact that especially the younger generations, it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to the older generations, also have challenged their mental health situations. We read that the rate of mental health, especially among young people, are ever increasing. Yeah. When I say mental health problem, I'm not saying about bad things, because myself, I'm someone who also have undergone.
I think everybody.
Everybody has. So this is just something natural. Sufism, as a mystical strand of Islam, also deals with this kind of psychological problem, which is rooted in spiritual problem. I think the root of most of the psychological problems of today is the fact that human beings are stripped of this spirituality. There is a psychologist, which is also a philosopher, modern philosopher, lived in the beginning of the 20th century, an American philosopher by the name of William James. He has predicted, actually in 1904, when he published his books, Varieties of Religious Experience, or I think in his other book, he said that although the civilization would drag people to another direction, and although there will be many friends that people would have in the future, it means that the future would consist of much more people, and then people can communicate easily, that people would not be happy, would not arrive at tranquility, although he was among friends, without having a good connection with the great friend. The great friend is God. Yeah, and this happens actually. We have friends. We have much more friends in social media, but more and more people feel lonely now. Spirituality, like Islamic mysticism or Sufism, actually can also act an antidote to this mental health problems. And unfortunately, spirituality has been connected to religion, and religion has been exposed as something which is farther to love than to secular spirituality. We need to rehabilitate a religion from being exposed as a source of exclusion, a source of hate, a source of war, a source of conflict, to a source of love. And again, this has to be done through disseminating the values of Islamic Sufism. And we need also to understand religion and its, to me, original understanding, which is a religion with God as more impersonal God rather than personal God. Yeah. In Islam, actually, we understand God as personal and impersonal, but ultimately, God is impersonal. I would say,
explain more.
Yeah. Instead of seeing God as a person who can be angry to us, who would punish us, we need to understand that everything, this kind of harsh understanding of God, is actually must be subjected to the understanding of God as the source of love. Usually I would say God as truth, God as goodness, and God as beauty. This is what I mean by saying that we need to ultimately understand God as something impersonal. And as soon as you understand God as personal, then God must be in absolute. To be absolute, God has to be something which is not limited. And seeing God as a person actually limit God. Even we cannot say that God is goodness, truth, and beauty, but this is the best approximation to understanding God. And it's very important. And this is the concept of Sufism. When it comes to law-oriented religion, God will be totally personal. And one will identify God with that, with the harsh God. And you can become a human being with harsh attitude toward other people. This is the source of conflict. And
so, what is your current project? I think we are here now at Nural Wala, one of your projects. And what is your plan ahead and what is your hope? Can you explain?
Yeah, we are doing actually this Nurul Wala. I'm one of them. We have the director of Nurul Wala, who is also someone knowledgeable in Sufism. We have Compassionate Action Indonesia, who is working with local governments to endorse compassionate values within the localities. We are doing philanthropic work. We are experimenting with compassionate curriculum in our schools. And we are now actually helping the Ministry of Religious Affairs to develop a curriculum, a love-based curriculum. So we are doing our best here and there as much as we can. Hopefully that one day it can arrive at a critical phase and it can create a significant change within the understanding of religion in Indonesia, especially since Indonesian people are religious. So a change to positive direction of how we understand Islam would certainly also create a positive change within our daily life on how we interact with each other, not only among Muslims, but also the followers of other religions, with people from other civilizations, even with atheists. I always say that actually people who really reflect and conclude that there is no God are people who are actually easier to convert to spiritual.
They think too much about God. That's why they are affected.
But it's better to think too much than not to think at all.
That's right. Okay, thank you, Pak Haidar. Do you have anything to say?